The following content contains explicit material. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. Greg Underdahl here, another fishing podcast. And today I'm talking with my very good friend, and also he's my colleague, freelance videographer, Dustin Blanchet. We're going to be talking hey, Dustin, just so you know, it's Blanchet. It's not Blanchet, correct? It's not Blanchet.
I mean,
how do you pronounce your name? People want to know.
I say Blanchet.
Blanchet. That's exactly.
What I say.
That's how I say it.
My wife makes fun of me. One time we were in Paris, and the very friendly hotel lady said, "Hello, Mr. Blanchet," and I was like, "Yeah, that's me." So now she just makes fun of me all the time.
I am going to be talking with Dustin Blanchet. Blanchet.
Yes.
That's what we're going to be doing today. So here we go.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
Blanchet? What was that?
Yeah, the hotel lady. She said Blanchet because that's so it is French. So I mean, I figure she knew better than me.
No, that sounds very. That sounds very sophisticated.
It does. That's why I went with it.
I would go with that. I would just change it from now on, Dustin.
I thought maybe she was upgrading us to the suite, but turns out we're staying in a hostel. So
okay.
There were no suites.
Well, let's get into like our. So I coming back. So we basically just got back from REDCREST. We were filming REDCREST 2021, and I don't even remember anymore. This is how I get. All these shoots roll into just one, and I forget where I was.
I mean, it's been several days, so it's understandable.
So I was coming back because I'm trying to do a podcast. I'm not trying to do. I am doing a podcast every week. We're going to be doing a podcast every week on this. So there's no more. I was talking about it at the last podcast with my partner in crime, Pete Wagner. I don't know if you've seen Pete before.
I've seen Pete. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We don't know each other personally, but
you feel like you know him.
Yeah, I do. I feel like we're BFFs. Yeah.
So
hey Pete, what's up, buddy?
So we talk. We had this idea for doing a podcast, and we also do this fishing show, fishing show.
An amazing show.
Appreciate
Everybody
it.
here should watch it because they probably are if they're watching this podcast, but
who knows?
It's a great show.
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you, and it's been fun. So I was, we're doing this every week, and I want to have just like long form conversations with people that Pete and I will. A lot of times it's just us two, and we're talking about current events and stuff happening in the fishing world, things like that. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted this to be, also just conversations with people that I want to have conversations with, whether it's in the fishing industry or just, friends like yourself, people, and just talk and have really candid conversations. That's what I'm trying to go for with this.
So isn't that the great thing about podcasts and the age we live in? I mean, we have a vehicle to do that.
Yeah,
it didn't happen 10 years ago. We can just get on here and we can blab for I don't know how long are we ever going to blab here.
Right, exactly.
And then people can watch it if they want.
Exactly.
It's great. I love it.
So I coming back from REDCREST, I wanted to. I was thinking about like who would be cool to talk to, on this week's podcast.
And me came to mind.
And so like Dustin and I, like we hang out at these events. Like I've known Dustin for geez, how long have we known each other? 15 years.
When did you get to WinterCom?
I got to WinterCom. It was the fall of 2005.
Yeah, so we started the same year. So yeah.
Fall of 2005, and then
it's been 15 plus.
Yeah. So, and we'll get into this later, like where we worked together before, but But so coming back from REDCREST on the plane, I'm like, Dustin, like we hang out, we at these events, we always hang out. We had a few beers at the for a couple nights, in Alabama.
Yeah.
And when that happens, we have these great conversations, like I always enjoy our conversations that we have, and even coming back like we had a couple of conversations just in the car when we were done with it.
I got to be your chauffeur for the whole trip.
Yeah. So
when I say got to, I mean literally. I enjoy being your chauffeur, right? Because I know we get to chat all the way home and all the way in the morning. So
yeah. So Dustin, when we do these events, we should kind of set up how this works. So Dustin and I shouldn't just assume if there's someone to just started listening to the podcast. Dustin and I both were freelance videographers, and one of our clients is Major League Fishing. And so Major League Fishing they'll set us up with rental cars, for the whole week. So these events are like week-long events, and we're given a rental car. This particular event, though, one of the other guys needed to use my rental car, so Dustin was my ride. And, all week.
You gave him your car, and you just hopped in with me. And that's fine because... So we have these great conversations. I got to thinking on flying back from Alabama. I'm like, it would be awesome just to shoot the shit with Dustin on the podcast, and because let's do it.
Should we do it?
Let's
go.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Oh wait a minute. We've been recording for 6 minutes and 45 seconds. I think we've been doing it. But yeah, so REDCREST. So initially REDCREST was supposed to be in Texas, but because of that crazy cold weather,
even farther, it was supposed to be in Grand.
Right, Grand Lake of the Cherokees, which is like north of
Grand.
Yeah, and you're coming from you're where right now, so the people know.
Well, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so the people know I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Home of headquarters of Major League Fishing, and so that was going to be in Grove, Oklahoma, Grand Lake of the Cherokees, and they were going to do a big expo, and then a to-do. It was going to be a lot of fun, and then like everything else in the past year, COVID crapped all over the fun.
Yeah,
and so they wanted to save. My understanding is they wanted to save all the fun for when we can have it. And then they were going to go to Lake Palestine.
Right. Or is it Palestine?
Palestine. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's
a controversial. Anytime we talk about Palestine, it can get very controversial. So maybe we just
we're already getting controversy. God.
So we were supposed to go to Lake Palestine.
5 Jewish watchers of this are calling up, and they're going to be, I don't know what I just said. I said something, Palestine. Oh, man.
No, you're
I'm sweating already.
We're good. Right? We're 100% pro-Israel.
I wanted to set, we're pro people is what we are on this podcast.
That's right.
Pro human.
For sure.
Greg is a real fisherman. And I don't want anybody to have the impression by me coming on this podcast that I also am, because I'm not. I am a cameraman, and I enjoy going out and fishing, but I have no actual valuable knowledge about fishing other than what I can watch the professional anglers do on the boat and potentially copy and then pretend like it was my idea.
Exactly. It's perfect. I mean, that's that's a great, you can then take those skills that you learned, from, and take them out to, maybe you have a local pond in your neighborhood, and you can,
the neighborhood pond.
I do the same thing, I mean, I try to, but so we were, so it was Lake Palestine. And it's kind of funny too, like Middle Eastern names that are in the central United States. Have you noticed that they're not how they're typically pronounced though? Like there's a Lebanon, Missouri.
Yes.
But you don't pronounce it
you
Lebanon.
Don't say Lebanon.
It's Lebanon.
Right.
Lebanon.
And I don't know if this same thing applies, but as you know from living here once, you've got Miami, Oklahoma. I mean, that is the name. It is phonetically and spelled. It is Miami. It is identical to the city in Florida. Yet for some reason here we call it Miami.
Yeah, Miami, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not from here originally, so I had to learn this, but I don't. Yeah, same thing. I don't. It's not Middle Eastern, but I mean, it's just we change these names. I don't know why.
And so I want you also, Dustin, to be very comfortable with just going off on tangents like we've been doing. Like we're
good,
perfectly in the flow here. We're going off on tangents. We'll start down a highway, but we'll take a lot of like just exits, and we'll eventually get back on the highway. But go ahead and take any exit you want, and it's all good here.
We don't even know where the end destination is. That's
it doesn't even matter what we right. That's the beauty of this medium. And here's the truth, and maybe this is one of the podcasts there's probably podcasts that shouldn't be happening. Just because you have the ability to talk and, probably doesn't mean that you should have a podcast. And that's maybe the case here with another fishing podcast.
Don't you blasphemy, man.
No, this is what I'm all about, self-deprecation. But my point is
I'm here to build you up.
Well, I appreciate it. We're free to talk whatever we want. But I'm going to try to get us back onto the highway here for a second.
REDCREST. Let's talk about REDCREST.
It got so cold down there, and it was freezing up here, and the temperatures were not that different down there for you guys. So, it was cold down there. It was cold even by Minnesota standards.
But you're in a Minnesota realm of cold, which is still a little foreign to people down here. But it was
you experienced
cold,
it. You experienced the temperature.
You weren't at the Big Five, the first Big Five. Unfortunately, right. You and I got separated on the Big Fives, which is a tragedy.
It was a tragedy.
And it will continue to be a tragedy probably for the rest of the year. But I was down at the Big Five, the first Big Five event, FLW, MLF, FLW, whatever order they say it's in, I don't remember. But it was in Lake Okeechobee, and I was getting ready to go, and I looked at the forecast, and obviously it was bad. Winter was coming, and my wife, was not very happy with me because she knew I was going to Florida, and I was, probably going to get a sunburn. But I left Okeechobee. I came back to real winter, and it was cold. Like I grew up in Montana originally, and
Dustin's nickname is Dustin's nickname is Montana. I mean, that's we call it some people. Yeah, so he's a true.
That's because nobody knew anybody else from Montana at the time.
Yeah, that's funny. But actually, there was a few. Well, we don't need to go down there. But there's a few people. It was kind of interesting from Montana at WinterCon. Like Von Esper was from Montana. Yeah. So Von Esper was a coworker, like a cowboy guy.
Yeah.
Great guy though. So you brought up a
real cold. Yeah.
So we had this crazy cold front that descended down, just blew out the plans. So the whole operation had to be moved from Lake Palestine to Lake Eufaula in Alabama.
Which is astounding, by the way, because they did it in a week.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. So and really, I mean, I felt like that venue was really a good choice. We've got a lot. Just the organization has a lot of history there, with the Lake Point State Park, and we've lodged there before, and the town is.
How many times have we been there? I mean, it's been a
lot, dude. I was thinking about it too. I've done even just in my career, I've done a lot of shoots there. I had an argument with my boss from Bass Pro Shops there. Like I had a blowout with my boss at Bass Pro Shops there. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I had a blowout with my boss at Bass Pro Shops. And then he apologized later in that
over
there, that hotel, in that room, or that, they have like those cabins sort of. It was in.
Yeah. You were in a cabin-y thing. Yeah.
It was, yeah. But it's like, I remember that. Wow. And that was like, what's crazy is you have these like flashbacks, and I was like, holy crap, that was in like 2002. So I'm like, and I did a retail video there. I shot and edited a retail video with Woo Daves it was called Woo's, listen to this, Dustin, it was called Woo's Clues.
Oh.
And so, isn't that nice? That's something, ain't it? Yeah, go ahead, look it up, find the VHS tape. And
hold on, I'm gonna search right now.
see if you can search it. You can,
No.
Yeah, Woo's Clues. So we shot it. We shot it there. And if anybody's watching the video podcast right now and I look tired and sleepy, it's because I get home and it's immediately party time. My wife is like, let's party. We go over to neighbors, and I'm just like still trying to recover from the last 2 days where I've just been kind of partying. I don't have any children, so I still act like I'm in college, basically. My wife and we act like we're in college. So I apologize.
As you should.
So but anyway,
on the flip side, my son came down for some reason at 5:30 in the morning to our bedroom this morning, and it's, these are the not to get into parenting, but these are the moments where you're just like, trying to be like a responsible parent is difficult when it's 5:30 in the morning and your kid wakes up and he comes down and you're just like,
yeah,
WTF?
Why are you doing this to me?
Why are you doing this to me? And my wife is very nice, and she got up and took him up to his bed. But at that point, like he ain't going back to sleep.
Right.
So
yeah,
you're up at 5:30. So anyway,
it's like for me, I have that with my animals. So we have 2 cats, and we have 2 dogs. We got this little, she's like the love of our lives, this little miniature dachshund, and sometimes she'll get up like early and have to go out, and it's like, oh my God, don't do this to me right now. I don't, but that's the only thing that I'm trying to relate, That's how I'm trying to relate.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Except your dog will probably go back to sleep. Maybe.
Right. So what was really cool. So before we get into REDCREST, I remember this. So you shot the Big 5 event, and that was Okeechobee. Is that right?
Yep.
So that was Okeechobee, and talk about that experience, because that was pretty cool. You were with the winner.
I was, and it was actually, in a way, it was my second time with a winner on sort of the combined FLW MLF format things, because last year, as some of you know, they did the Super Series events when COVID hit, and MLF stuff kind of got shuffled and some things got canceled, and they let those MLF guys come into those Super Series events, and I was with the winner on one of those too, with Justin Lucas, also a fun time.
So you were on the one. So Justin Lucas.
That was we left out of Sandusky.
Okay, so that was his second win that year. Their second win last year, right? So he won. Didn't he? He won Sturgeon Bay. Yeah, and then he goes and he wins that one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So what was?
I think you're right.
What was that like? Like just that whole experience.
Well, I mean, first off, Lake Erie's a monster. Like it's dumb.
I know. A bass boat has no business being on. It really doesn't, dude.
On the ocean. I mean, you're on the ocean, man. It's dumb, but it obviously presents challenges to those guys. It presents challenges to us from a TV standpoint, and he fortunately he was not one of those people who was running up the Detroit River up into wherever that is. I don't remember. Some of those guys were making that run, and they were running for 2+ hours, fishing for I don't remember how long, not very long, and then having to make the run back before weigh-in. So fortunately, Lucas was not doing that, and I didn't have to do that. But it still got plenty wild where we were a few times, and he's not one to put a butt seat in the back. So it was kind of just like it's just like this balancing act,
constantly moving, constantly it's exhausting when you got a heavy camera on your shoulder, and then you're trying you and that was a live. Did they do any live stuff with that?
Yeah, they did. I had I think I was with him for 2 days, if I remember right. And we a little different live setup last year than this year for those things. But yeah, it was live, and so everybody got to got to watch him do what he does best, which is kick butt, because he's very good. And and he came back and he won. So
I was really impressed. I mean, honest to God, like I was really impressed by that. Like just the fact that he did back to back, because he hasn't. You know, he hasn't, I don't think, ever had a year like that. Like, so that was probably his most, like, impressive year as a professional angler. I don't know his career that well, but I'm pretty sure that, I mean, just to have 2 back-to-back wins is a huge thing in the sport, because it's so hard to win, you know? Yeah. So I was pretty impressed. He's definitely
one of those, he's got that electronics genius stuff going on. Like he's proficient at that, and I think if I remember right, both those tournaments being up there kind of revolved around that. And
yeah,
so,
for sure.
You know, we were offshore, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, but he was working his magic on his electronics and just pulling them out of there.
The nutty thing right now is that, so Justin, if I'm not mistaken, he's a Humminbird guy, and they have this. He had it on his boat. I'm pretty sure he's got this 360 imaging. So did you see on one of his graphs? It's just like a circle, and then he could see just. Yeah. So he's got that.
I don't have any idea how to read that thing. I mean, I look at those guys' stuff and I look at it and I'm like, I'm trying to like process it in my brain, and I still haven't wrapped my head around that.
So that 360 imaging technology it's basically doing, like side scanning technology,
Yeah.
And you
I kind of have my head wrapped around that now. I've looked at it enough. I'm kind of like, okay, I get that.
So all it's doing on that 360 imaging, the transducer is on the, it's mounted to the trolling motor. It's like it's on its own separate arm,
Okay.
And it's basically scanning around the whole boat.
Just a circle.
It's doing a circle. It's doing the signal from that kind of side scan is like a razor thin. It's super high. My understanding, it's like super high frequency, but razor thin. And you just it does a 360 of what's all around your boat in this, super high frequency, just, and it's, does that make any sense? But
I think I heard that sound.
Yeah, that sells it. That totally, just by making that sound, it just clicks for you. I know, that's why I made it. But it's
if I made one, it would make like a Hunt for Red October sound every time.
That's a better sound. It's a better
Bing.
sound.
Bing.
Yeah. So it's basically, so that signal, or when you look at that graph that has that, just think of it as like you're looking straight down like a bird's eye view at the bottom.
Right. Okay.
At the bottom that's around the boat. And it's
so like the circle is the width of the swath.
It's the radius. It's the radius.
Okay. Okay.
And so so basically that what I'm getting at is that we're getting to a point where I'm thinking these anglers are going to have 3 graphs on their boat. Right. And I think they're already doing it. I think Jacob Wheeler is doing it already. Right. I'm pretty sure I saw 3 graphs on Jacob Wheeler's boat.
Yeah, I think he did a little bit, maybe most of last year. But I remember him talking about that in the broadcast, how he wasn't really like, tied into one electronics guy, because he was using multiple. And I don't necessarily understand the intricacies of each brand and what they do differently, but I think you're right. Like, so I'm
these
sure
guys,
each one has its merits.
So I'm thinking, I don't know this for sure, but I know Justin has that 360 imaging, right? So he's got that. Mm-hmm. So basically, what that does, as far as for a fisherman, right, is you go, okay, what do I got around me right now? That you look down at the 360 and you go, okay, it basically just kind of gives you the playing field, right? And you go, okay, there's a boulder right over there. And then and this is the crazy thing about it, then you take your forward-facing sonar and you point it at that boulder and you see what's living around that boulder.
Like in a view that looks kind of like at it rather than
it's basically
on top of it.
Exactly. So you're pointing it right at it, and you're going, "Oh, there is the boulder. It's three-dimensional. It's in what 360, or excuse me, what forward-facing sonar is. It's basically an ultrasound image. It's the same. It's using sound, just like all transducers use, but it's a live like ultrasound, like you would, when your wife's pregnant or something. That's sending. That's very similar. Like it's very similar technology. And so when you look at, you point that forward-facing sonar at if you find a rock pile or a boulder or a brush pile, you point it at that, and then you could see who's there. And then not only can you see who's there, you can see their activity level. Are they interested in what I'm presenting? So then you have now you have two graphs, right? And then you would have your traditional graph that's just the sonar that tells you the bottom, how deep you are, and down scan and side scan on that. So it's like, it's three
and to
graphs.
Come full circle to REDCREST, that's what we saw. Well, at least we saw the forward-facing sonar, again, playing a key role, much as it did for Justin Lucas's Humminbird 360 setup. Anybody who wants to like compete, and it's kind of like I have mixed feelings about it because God, it's almost there seems
like
to be a lot of mixed feelings. I frankly don't give a crap because I'm not like a good enough fisherman to give a crap. But I mean, I see the conundrum for people.
I mean, but you really, to be competitive, if it's going to be legal, dude, it's like I wouldn't be caught dead without it on. If I'm going to be fishing tournaments, I'd be like, yes, I need to have you're going to have your ass handed to you if you don't have it.
No, and I think I mean, if like I said, if I was super good and I was out there doing that, I would probably lean towards like Wheeler. I don't know that I would commit to just one brand. Obviously, from a money standpoint, it'd be beneficial, but like from a competitive standpoint, like. Why wouldn't you want, basically the pros, take the pros of each one and put them on the front of your boat, man. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that now, with the exception of Humminbird, all of like, Garmin's got it, Lowrance has got it. Humminbird's, I heard, at REDCREST that Humminbird's been working on something, and they've been really dialing it in, really taking their time with it. So then, Humminbird will eventually have it. So, I mean,
right.
But yeah, but I wanted to kind of go into, so you were on Erie last year. Like, what do you do to prepare for a day like that? Because I'm always kind of like, when we're on a big body of water like that, I'm like, oh boy, what do we have in store? It's one of the things I enjoy what we do, because there's a part of me that I remember when Deadliest Catch was like really a big deal, Yeah. And I kind of admired those guys. I kind of was like, man, that would be kind of cool to do that job as far as film that show. Yeah. Just because it's an adventure, and I get that charge out of what we do, but there is like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Like, and so how do you mentally, I'm just curious. I know what I kind of go through. Like, what do you think like the day before, and that you're going to be in like a situation where it's going to be rough water? Like, how do you prepare?
Well, I mean, I think I go through the same thoughts that you do, probably, in the sense that like, I think there's, maybe it's like, I think it's probably, there's that element of when you're talking about Deadly Catch, like, I think there's pride in going out there in adverse conditions and still producing a product, and a good product for whoever it is that you're shooting for at the time. And, but the undercurrent of that is always to come home at the end of the day. So, there's definitely like, there's always mixed feelings. You like, you want to, you at one point, you just, like you said, you kind of go, oh man, like you look at that forecast, and it was that one day, I think it was the day, I don't know if it was the last day or the day before the last day. I mean, the wind gusts were like at 25 mile an hour. So like you leave out of Sandusky, and you just, you get out of that little protected area there close, and you just see the waves, and you're just like, oh geez, like there, there's, all you can hope for, really, like your life is in the hands of the angler, like whoever you're with. And Justin Lucas is super cool dude. He's very in tune with safety. Like he doesn't want to. He's not out there to mash on the pedal and get anywhere as fast as he can go. He just wants to get there and have all his stuff in one piece. And really, that's like, I think, for most of those guys, I think they realize at that point, like, if you go too fast, like you're going to get where you're going, and there's going to be pieces of stuff laying on your deck, graphs and whatever. Like, it's a lot of money involved with your boat, and you just, everybody talks about good old days. Like, I don't know that some of those old mentalities of just like macho testosterone fueled stuff are probably they're not as much there anymore. So, but in terms of preparing, you just kind of like, I don't know, you it's not going to be easy. And then you just try to like wrap your head around of what, bottling things up in terms of like, get your rain cover on your camera, button down your stuff, like whether you got a bin to put it in or tie it off to whatever, and just make sure stuff doesn't go flying out, and put your rain suit on and your life jacket and just button up. And then, like I said, you're at that point, you're in the hands of your angler. And, man, if somebody is going too far, I personally don't have any problem giving them a little tap and being like, hey, I want to live here, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, as you should.
That doesn't really ever happen. I mean, like I said, most everybody, it's MLF puts safety at a high priority, and FLW does too. And there was questions on Erie as to whether they should be sending anybody out. I mean, I remember them having that discussion, and they were talking about pushing it a day, and ultimately they didn't, and that's fine. And like I said, I think the guys who choose to take a run up the Detroit River on days like that, I mean, they're making a gamble, a time gamble.
Yeah.
That you get up there and you don't have a lot of time to fish, and you can only go so fast on the way home. And I'm sure there's some people who probably went faster than I did in Lucas's boat. But yeah, for the most part, I think everybody is keen on just getting home safe and having a good tournament.
What do you do like in those situations? When we do when we do a cup event, it's a totally different deal. A cup event is it's Major League Fishing's boats, and right. I will request that they have a seat back there on the back deck. Because for me, having that seat, it kind of, I'm just looking through a viewfinder all day. Having that seat, I like being able to touch something that tells me, okay, I'm in the center of the boat right now. It also, I use it kind of.
That's a good thing to have.
Yeah. And I use it to stabilize myself, but also to set the camera down when I need a break from time to time. It's just. But when you're fishing out of the anglers' boats for the Bass Pro Tour events and the FLW events, they're not FLW events anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's you're out of the anglers' boats, and a lot of times, like you're saying, they don't have a seat. They don't put a seat back there.
Right.
So. In that Lake Erie tournament, how were you like stabilizing yourself in those waves? Like, how did you? What?
I was all over the place, man. I mean, I was just.
That had to be terrible.
Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, there's no getting around it. It was kind of terrible. I mean,
I know, man. I've been there.
It's terrible. Like, I don't know, like you think of it almost like a carnival ride, like you're on some sort of like the show Wipeout, or or what was the do you remember MXC?
Kind
the
of.
Old it was like
that ninja show.
It was like the Japanese game show.
Yeah. I know what you're talking. Yeah.
Hilarious.
They're constantly jacking people, hitting them with giant inflatable, like giant like foam arms and just knocking them out.
Right, and they're like running along this like skinny little thing, and then it's just like something comes out of the wall and like punches them off into the water.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of our job. It's kind of our job.
Well,
speaking of which, yeah, there's something we need to talk about too. There, I just remembered.
Okay, write that down.
I am writing it down.
But I mean, it felt like some sort of like trick ride like that, where you're standing on the back of this boat that's just kind of like up and down and left and right. I mean, there wasn't a ton of like, I wouldn't say there was a ton of direction to the waves, so it wasn't really like, it wasn't really like this. It was just kind of like, it's like a carnival ride, and then you just kind of, as Greg knows, I've got a little contraption that I paid too much money for, but it's a lifesaver that attaches to the camera, and it shoulders some of the weight of the camera. It's obviously it's not easy for people to visualize just sitting here watching or listening to this, but it's essentially it takes like a monopod.
Yeah, it's like a monopod that straps to your
to your body.
Yeah, and it keeps it basically just takes the weight it distributes the weight of the camera better. Is how my understanding is.
Picture of the Steadicam here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a picture,
we're not
so it's and I'm not doing any editing to this podcast. I'm switching live right here. I'm actually as I'm conversing with you, I'm switching. Now I'm switching to my camera. Hey everybody! Now I'm switching to DB's camera. Hey.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah. So. Hey. Multitasking, but I'm not doing, just so you know, I'm not doing any more lower thirds on people. Hell, if Joe Rogan doesn't do lower thirds, then I'm not doing lower thirds. I don't need to add any more work that actually means nothing. So you are the first
people
person.
People already heard my name. They don't need to see it.
I know. Lower third. And
they don't care about me. They care about you. They're here for you.
No, not true. A lower third is a title. I'm not titling anybody. That's like, I'm so set in these old school, production things that, we've been indoctrinated to do, Dustin, our whole career, I'm like, no, I'm not doing lower third titling anymore. Give me a break.
They heard my name already.
Yeah, they know who you are.
I'm just a man here talking to Greg.
We're all just men. So,
so it back to, I feel like in a way I got that thing, and it's a little bit of a cheat device for all these fishing shoots because you're on the boat for 10 hours a day, and I'm just I'm old, and I want to be able to stand when I'm 60, and I don't want to like limp around like a somebody who's just so I bought this device and I enjoy it, but it is slightly, it was helpful in that environment, I believe, to sort of like have another, it's kind of like an additional point of contact between the camera and your body. And so as you are, as your body is flailing around on the back of this boat in the ocean of Lake Erie, it's just a little more added stability for that. But yeah, I mean, if you could have seen me from another boat to the side, I mean, I would have just been traipsing all over the back of this boat trying to, stay upright mostly.
It's another selling point that I hadn't considered about that piece of equipment. Like,
you need one.
Yeah. Because first of all, we're doing more and more of these events, which I'm very thankful for, but especially in COVID, with all that uncertainty. So I feel like we're pretty fortunate there. But doing more of events is going to be more taxing on my back. My back in particular is what I don't have any back issues, knock on wood. But
good for you.
For now, that can easily change. So I want to make sure that like my back is, and that I can get to retirement age doing this. Like I got to think long term. Okay. And I think that because it distributes the weight of the camera, but then also like just for composition wise, when you're in that crazy, the waves and stuff, I hadn't thought about that too. It could really help with that, because there's times where I'm like, I need two hands, to like stabilize myself. Yeah. And I don't have two hands with like traditionally holding a camera. So like that allows you to have kind of like,
it's definitely, it's a part of this business that I don't think even we really like. We bitch and complain about stuff all the time because that's what TV people do in general. Some worse than others. But I think it is like, it's something that we don't really talk about that much. There is a toll that doing this job takes on you. And I do, like, as I've gotten older and more decrepit, I do believe that, being proactive about like trying to take care of your body. And obviously, as I sit here drinking this glass of whiskey, I'm not talking about that part of taking care of your body. I am talking about.
I look way too responsible right now with this water. Trust me. It's only because I've been drinking alcohol like straight for the last 2 days. I'm trying to detox, for goodness sakes.
But taking care of yourself is a and go back to our early cup days, and we were both younger. There was no COVID. We would go out. We would eat dinner together, have beers, and stay up till not like crazy times at night, but we'd go out. We might come home at 10, 10:30, 11 and go to bed, and then you're getting up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember I felt bad. I did not feel good. Like 2 or 3 days of that, and I was not good. And then as I got older and wiser, and we've stopped. Even before COVID, we kind of stopped doing that a little bit. We have maybe 1 or 2 nights.
Yeah.
But I think we all kind of realized, like, hey, if we're gonna get through 6 days of a Bass Pro Tour event or a Cup event, we gotta like not drink profusely and maybe get more than 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're gonna survive this,
you have to. You kind of have to ration your partying.
Yes.
So I try to. For the most part, it's kind of like the last day is what I've decided. Okay, I'm just going to, go out with a bang on the last night, and that's, I've been doing that more. But there was a few times like this last event at REDCREST, we hung out a couple times, had some drinks. That was cool. Nothing too crazy, but
no.
So that was a cool, to be with the winner
so
there.
We went with Lucas. Yeah, that was cool. We go to Okeechobee, first Big Five of the season. I got on the boat with Mr. Skeet Reese the first day, and he was sitting in a good spot, but by no means was he out in front of the pack at all.
How many day event was that?
Well, from a TV standpoint, we're only there two days for TV.
Okay.
They had fished. I'm going to say something I don't know for sure.
No worries.
It was either 1 or 2 days before that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not these new formats. I know there's a lot going on.
That was the first one.
I'm familiar, obviously, with the Bass Pro Tour and how that's set up. But so you were with him the last 2 days of the event.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So basically, the last 2 days of the event, he's. Was it a close event? Was there anybody? Is it the same? Is it a 5-fish deal with that? I should know this.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a 5. Yeah, it's a 5-fish deal.
5 fish.
Okay.
5-fish deal.
Okay.
He was. I want to say on the first day that I was with him, which was, I don't know whether that was his second or third day of fishing, because I just don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Clearly, I had been paying attention to everything that was going on before I got there.
This isn't an interrogation. Trust me. I could care less that you don't know. Right? Like,
not an angling aficionado.
Yeah. No. Trust me. This is a safe space, Dustin. You're in a safe space here.
There's some shit I gotta confess.
Yeah. Greg. Yeah, you can make this a confessional. You can whatever you want to, But so I
hop on the boat. He's probably in I want to say he's definitely in the top 5.
Okay. Yeah.
The first day I go with him.
And have you worked with Skeet a lot? Like
I wouldn't say a lot. I've been on the boat with him throughout MLF probably 2 or 3 times, and quite a few years. So not a ton of times.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed working with Skeet. He's like, I think of all the anglers, he's the best. He knows how to negotiate, and he's the best marketer at really gets it. And I don't. I'm terrible at being a salesman or marketing or advertising. Just what we've done on the internet. We've been doing this. I mean, we shot our first thing in 2011. And here it is 10 years later, and we it's I hate being pushy. I feel like I'm just not, it ain't in me, but some guys are really, they get the business, they get selling, and but of all the anglers, as far as knowing how to negotiate his value, I think there's no one that touches Skeet Reese. I think he's got the best. I think he's got the best. He's got the best deals, or sponsor deals than anybody. Just because he knows how to. He's a great negotiator. I don't know that for a fact, but I think
he's a good product. If that sounds very cold, but I mean it's he's. He's had, and obviously I think if you saw any of the end of that Big 5 tournament, he was very, very emotional at the end of that and winning it. And I think he's had some tough years, and it seemed like he probably, had some questions as to whether in his own mind, whether he was good enough to keep up with, there's always we talk about the young guys and the new and the whatever, and he's not, he's in the, and
Skeet's kind of a veteran now. I mean, he's a veteran. He's he's kind of the old guard now,
In a way, it's I don't want to say midlife crisis, but I mean, I feel it too. I'm almost 40, and it's you get to that point in your life where you're just you start realizing you feel, and I've heard Skeet say it, you feel young. I feel young. I feel like I think Greg and I had this conversation in the car on this last trip. For whatever reason, and maybe in my brain, it's just stunted. There's times I sit there and I think in my head, I might as well be 27.
Yeah.
Or 29. In my head, that's how old I think I am.
That's how I feel. I don't feel, honestly, I'm
almost 40. I don't feel old.
Dude, I'm 45.
And I don't think Skeet feels old.
No, you don't.
And, but then all the hype, comes around guys like Wheeler, and for good reason. They're amazing, and for their age, they're amazing, and all that. But I'm sure some of these old guys. Sorry, Skeet, I just called you old. He's watching this right now. He's so mad at me. He's like, I'm never letting that son of a bitch on my boat again. He just called me old on the most popular podcast in the fishing world, and I'm not letting him on my boat again.
I don't know. I mean, I look at our numbers. I'm not going to talk about our numbers, but, I don't think our numbers are very good. But actually, we might be the most popular fishing podcast. Even with...
I know we are. I feel it in my bones.
So
but anyway, back to my point, you got to know that guys like him are feeling that pressure from younger anglers. They probably feel that pressure in the sponsor world, and when you go on a dry streak for a little while, you probably struggle questioning whether can I keep doing this or not. And so for him, that win was clearly a really huge positive emotional moment for him, and that's for us, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like it's really cool to be a part of those moments, like with those people, because you know how much it means to them, and you know you're there with them, and it's a lot of fun to be there for that.
It's definitely one of the benefits of this job, you know, to, and of course, you know, you're there when shit hits the fan too, you know. And it's super awkward, you know? Like, and that happened at REDCREST. Like, there was a situation where it was like, oh, God, I feel like I just want to crawl in, you know, and like in the corner of the boat and just I don't want to be seen because it's so awkward right now. But for, you know what I mean?
Happens.
Like, so, but with Skeet, and to see that, like, the thrill of victory and to capture that, and it's emotional, and, you know, what's fun about it is that you're the eyes for the viewer, you know, and it's up to you how you frame that shot, going in tight, getting real close, seeing the tears, whatever. You're like the God, you're kind of like God there. Like, you're going, okay, what's best? How should I compose him? Let's do a push in. What's going to be the most dramatic? All those things. And you're like, this is really cool that I'm capturing this moment. You know, I really enjoy that. Yeah. First of all, I just enjoy it, like, to be able to film those moments, but also just as a human, just to be there in those moments is really, it's something that is really pretty badass about what we do.
And there's times I think that's like, that can be a difficult part of our job, is to still do your job as a cameraman in the midst of some of those, whether they're good or bad times. Like, it's easy to kind of like get lost in it a little bit and like, oh yeah, shit, I got a job to do. I should probably try and keep my focus on that a little bit, you know, because it can, you know, you can kind of get taken away. You know, we've both done hunting shoots probably, and like, you know, those are things that turn into, you know, clusterfucks as quickly as you can possibly imagine.
Big time.
But a lot of it revolves around that excitement and that emotion of like, there's a big buck or whatever it is, and like they want to shoot it and you're trying to get a shot, you know, and there's times where stuff like that, it's very difficult.
And they forget, they forget that we're actually there to film a show, and meanwhile they're just trying, like in the hunting aspect of things, or hunting side of things, like that seems to be, it's still, that happens in fishing too. I've had to slow people way down on fishing shoots, like not tournament related, but you're making a fishing show. And you have a lot of experience with that as well. Like, I want to talk to you about Beat Charlie Moore and stuff, but you know, especially if it's a new guest that's going to be on the show, you know, and they're all amped up and it's like, and they're making casts when you're like, you can't be making casts yet. We got to get all set up. You catch a fish and I'm not ready, you know, it doesn't count.
If I don't shoot it, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't. It's like it didn't happen. It's like if it might
as well not happen.
Not have happened. So it's funny how it's weird. The thing I like about tournaments is that it's, in some ways I like it, in some ways I don't, but in some ways just the fact that you just have to roll with it, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have as much control is kind of a good thing too, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's more of just, you know, you just got to roll, and it's how you have less control. Like, you can't go, okay, wait a minute, we gotta stop. I need to get this cut away.
Whatever happens is going to happen. Yeah, and you just gotta. I mean, if you take a pee and the guy catches a fish, well, it kind of is. We can't go back and fake it. Like, it happened the way it happened.
So what? So Skeet, just to was he like flipping in that? Was he flipping like grass or something? How did he win that thing?
Well, so I'm
not switching very well right here. If people are watching the video podcast, I forget that I actually have to be like switching cameras, and especially if you're still a little bit kind of. It's not a hangover that I have. It's like a positive hangover. I don't know what you'd call it. I'm still a little bit like my mind's a little bit, you know,
But you seem upbeat, like you're not like down, like a hangover.
Oh
down.
no, it's not. It's a totally positive. Yeah,
you're a champion.
It's a
champion.
What would you call that? It's not a hangover when you feel that way. What's a good name for that when it's a positive experience the day after?
I know what you're saying. Like it gets a little. I don't know. Like your head's in a different like hangover space.
Yeah, but it's a very positive.
It feels good.
So yeah, so he. I'm not. I don't mean to put you on the spot here. I'm putting you on the spot.
I gotta think because I'm. Like I said, I'm not.
It's also probably blending into the last tournament that you just shot.
Well, a little bit. He was flipping into some grass stuff the first day, and didn't throw a ton of moving bait stuff, if I remember right, a little bit. But there was kind of like I don't want to call it an island because it wasn't really an island, but in the midst of this kind of bayish, not a huge bayish area, but I think it was probably I want to say a popular spot, but there was a few other anglers in there. I saw another tournament angler and then a couple local guys. So it wasn't like a secret spot or anything, but there was kind of like a little bit of an islandish sort of grass in the middle.
Right.
And that's where the first day we were mostly concentrated, and going into the final, towards the end of the day on that first day, he only had 3 fish out of his 5. And I don't remember weight wise what that was. It wasn't great. Like it was not going to be a good day.
Right.
And then towards the end, he caught 2 more and, rounded out his 5. And he must've had one decent one in that first 3. And then the other 2 were, I think, 1 average and then 1 somewhat decent one again. And so he came away at the end of that day, just towards the end in decent shape, still in that top 5. I don't quite remember where he stood, but I want to say maybe like 2 or 3.
Did he kind of feel like going into the last day, it's like, okay, he was more confident, had like, he kind of had, oh really?
No.
Interesting.
I don't think so. And I did, at least if he did, I didn't feel that for him. I mean, because it was a grind all day, and really it felt like only by the luck of the final hour did he come away with 5 fish that day. And I think I want to say that was the second day, because I feel like the first day he was in there and he did pretty well, and then that second day was kind of like just so slow and such a grind. It was, the question mark was like, well, is this just on its way out? Like, is this spot on its way out?
Yeah.
And so we went back in there the final day and still kind of poked around that middle part in the very early part of the morning. And then I don't know exactly what struck him to, there's so many, Okeechobee has so many reeds and stuff. And so as you moved out towards the edge of this bay to kind of like almost, a wall of reeds there along the edge. I don't know what struck him just to decide to move out and go out to that edge. And he started throwing a moving bait. I want to say it was a chatterbait. I don't remember. But I kind of think so.
So yeah, it's amazing how everybody throws that bait, man. It's amazing. It's a hell of a fish catcher, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it's the thing, man. Yeah. Yes, I don't know. But anyway, he went out towards the edge of those reeds, and it's still, there's an element of luck there, because I think we hit like it was one of those magical right place, right time, and he caught, it was every other cast, like there were 3, 4, 5 pounders for like, it was an hour of magic. And
no kidding.
It was insane. It was awesome. It was so much fun. Like, it was just, we went kind of like along this kind of edge of weeds, and they had little like little inlets into them, and there was two inlets that seemed to produce most of what we caught, but like I said, they were just all big.
He
Like,
found he found the mother lode.
It was the mother lode, man, and it was the star. It was just the stars aligning, in some way. Like I think he was throwing the right thing, and we came along. And he hadn't fished that edge. I don't think the whole time. And we had seen some locals kind of like, not in those spots in particular, but we had seen one, like it looked like a guide and a couple guys out towards the edge somewhere else, but they were throwing live bait and stuff, and like it wasn't anything where you'd be like, oh well, that's where the fish are,
right?
Like there wasn't really any big clues there, and he just, like I said, he kind of, I think that that stuff in the middle still that next morning didn't seem like it was great, and so he probably thought, well, we probably just need to move around a little bit and explore, and it all just happened at the right time. And it was.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome to capture that. And and Skeet, have you ever spent any time with Skeet, like just away? Like, have you seen him at like, a lot of times we stay in the same hotels, especially for like the cup events. You ever just had a beer with him or anything? Ever talk with him?
No, I don't think so. I mean, he's always very friendly, and says hi, and he remembers my name all the time, which is super nice. But I don't think I've ever got to just hang out with him now.
Yeah, he's always been, very down to earth. I mean, he drives a giant F650 super truck, which is funny because we have a story that we could tell. We have a connection with F650 super trucks.
650. Oh, I think that's the DVD I have in my house. I wish I had. Man, that makes me mad that I did not. Like, I should have gotten that DVD before we did this, and I should have like captured that, and then I should have just screen shared that right now because I bet it's awesome.
So Dustin and I, we worked on a show. We worked on a show together called Roll With It. So we worked.
This was Greg's show. You make it sound very together, but I mean, this was your show. I'm not a good self promoter, so you see it right. Well,
evident.
here I'm trying to go in on it for you. That Greg is obviously Greg has a lot of talents, which is most people are in their lane like me. Like, I am a cameraman, and that's what I do. I did edit a season of Beat Charlie Moore, but I'm not a great editor. I'm not fast, and so mostly I have a skill. Greg, on the other hand, is a man of many talents.
It's what it is. All it is, Dustin. All it is
hosts,
ADD.
He edits,
adult attention
shoots.
It's attention deficit disorder. It's very hard for me just to, maybe do one thing. But at the same time, you're never going to be a master of. If you're like you're like, you see, oh, there's a squirrel over there. Oh, I'm going to do that, or But I just like doing different stuff. It's just fun. But I don't like. I think it's ridiculous in this country. Like, I think it's so ridiculous, this thing, just because you're in front of the camera, that you're a celebrity, and that there's this thing. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, for instance, so one of the guys. I live on a small lake, and we've had a cold snap. Obviously, everywhere in the country is this crazy cold snap, but finally things are starting to warm up. But we were under a really strong cold snap for like 3 weeks, and it made it so that we were under threat of winter killing on our lake out here. So we were going to aerate this morning. So a crew of us all met up, in our lake association. One of the members of the lake association is a sportscaster. And I remember the first time I saw him at the
local station.
Yeah, in Minneapolis here, and I remember the first time I saw him, I'm like, that's the guy on TV. That's And now I know him. I'm like, well, of course he's a dude. And it's the same thing. It's so ridiculous.
Funny that you're saying that because you've been a man on TV.
Well, it's dumb. It's just dumb. People. I remember people like Roll With It. People asking for my autograph. It's flattering. But it's just the thing that all of us as humans do. We, for whatever reason, like when someone's on TV, we put them on this. We do this thing where they're like, you're the person on. It's weird. I mean, and I understand it. I've been that person. I get it, but I don't really. It's not something I don't do the on camera stuff because I want, for my ego. It's just fun for me.
No, you're just having fun.
Yeah,
and that's the.
Yeah,
but that's the best. Those are the best people on camera, as we've both learned through our years of doing television. The people who are the best talent are the ones who can be in front of the camera and still seem like normal people.
Yeah.
Because it's we've seen lots of people in front of the camera, and there's always it's rare to find people who are truly good in front of the camera, and who don't come across as robots or disingenuous or whatever. And then that's I've done my fair share of trying to like help people, younger people, be in that role, and I can never stress to them enough, just be yourself, stop trying to pretend the on camera, being the on-camera person. So, but you have that skill naturally, and that's why.
I mean, that's nice of you to say that. I mean, we've worked a lot together, and so we, just to kind of give a background, and I think I was going to talk about Skeet Reese, and he's down to earth, and he's, I think that's how we got on this tangent. I don't know. We took an off ramp here off the highway. I have no idea what's going on.
Sorry, we left Skeet.
I should be drinking. I should have whiskey. Actually, that won't help my memory at all. But I don't know. I still should be doing it.
Can we pause this recording and you can go get whiskey?
Nah, that's fine. I really shouldn't. I've really got a detox. But so
it's delicious.
I was gonna say, so we are a little bit of our history. So you live in Tulsa. You're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I lived for 4 years. We worked for a company called Wintercom. And this was, I was there from fall of 2005 to the fall of 2009. And that's when we worked together. And so we had done many shoots together, worked on, we did a show called Get Wild with Cindy Garrison. So a lot of the shows that we were producing at Wintercom, Wintercom was this television production company. We were doing a lot of what we were doing was the ESPN Outdoors block. A lot of those shows.
Yeah,
when
that
you
was
say
back
that was
when ESPN cared about the outdoors.
Right. Yeah, and so this is
it's not the case.
It was
anymore.
It was when ESPN had actually even bought Bass, so they were putting a ton of money into bass fishing shows, and ESPN really had no fucking clue what they were doing, quite frankly, with that property. But that was it was later, that it became pretty obvious. But
I think at that point in time, ESPN dabbled in trying to find the next best thing, which is why you saw them I do occasional work for ESPN. Hopefully they're not feeling like I'm bagging on them. But at that point in time, they were, there was they took hold of NASCAR for a while and really put money and time into that. And then it kind of fizzled, and somewhere in there was soccer, and they would push soccer hard for a while. And then I felt like the outdoor block was kind of the same thing. It was, what was it, Saturday mornings or whatever. Yeah. And in a time block where if you were an actual outdoorsman, you would have been outdoors,
right?
Not watching the shows we were making,
right? And it's and it frustrates. Well, I know, but it frustrates me because it's kind of like what we're doing. We're kind of the redheaded stepchildren of the,
Oh yeah.
Which is
you just
always
offended the redheads.
What's that? Well, it's hard not to offend.
We're sorry, gingers.
It's everybody. Everybody's offended now, so I apologize. I didn't mean to offend. It's very. I'm constantly walking on eggshells.
Ginger population is in an uproar.
Yeah. So.
It's true. We were.
But what was crazy about that though is that that block was really. That outdoors block. I remember watching it when I was a kid. I would get up. I used to live in California. I'd get up at 5 a.m. to watch that outdoor
Oh,
block.
it goes back that far?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
in the 80s. So Jerry McInnes had the first show on ESPN. It was the Fishing Hole.
Wow.
Pretty
I
sure it's the
remember
first
that.
show on ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. So then he was in that
I
outdoor
forgot
block.
that. I didn't know that went back that long.
Yeah. And then, so for that to go away, it was really kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
You know? But so Dustin and I we worked like most, I would say the majority. Wouldn't you say the majority of what we were doing was for the ESPN Outdoors block when we were at WinterCom? Maybe, I don't know if majority, maybe
You
a
and
lot
I,
of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
think
we were
so.
kind of in that
Wintercom
realm.
did other stuff, and their birth was in horse racing, and they had some MLS soccer at the time, and they had a lot of stuff going on at the time we were both there. But yes, you and I were, our primary function was outdoor block stuff.
So some of the fun stuff, and we worked. I think back on it now, like it's kind of surreal, like the stuff that we did. Dustin and I, we worked on a show called Get Wild with Cindy Garrison, and it was a show with an attractive blonde who it's television 101. You know what I mean? Have an attractive woman, she's gonna sell it. And she goes off to far-flung places, and then we document her experiences wearing a lot of revealing wear. So because you want to, get the males to watch, and it's very formulaic, but we worked on that show.
I feel like at the time it was a little avant-garde, like you had a lot of, like, those shows were mostly populated by men, and she was, I think you kind of see that stuff more now, but I feel like that show was a little ahead of its time in a way of like putting this attractive blonde female front and center as the driver host of the show, and it was a good show, and
it really was a good show. I mean, it was very well produced. They
went crazy places.
We went crazy places.
I didn't go to all the crazy places, but you went probably more than I did.
To Cindy's credit too, I mean, she could fish and she could hunt. She wasn't she was just a pretty face,
No, she was not. She was not faking the fishing and hunting. She knew what she was doing.
So Dustin and I worked on that on that show. Like, I was pretty much the fishing guy. Like, I was known, okay, I did some hunting, but I did a lot. Most of my stuff was like fishing related. So they put me on that show because it was the saltwater edition. They had like a whole season. It was like Cindy Garrison Get Wild saltwater edition, and I was put on that season. And we went, I think about it. We went to, I went for doing that show. I went to Panama. I went to the Bahamas. I went to the Keys. I went, I'm forgetting places.
Yeah.
Went to. Remember, we went to freaking Belize. Weren't you on the Belize deal? Did you go to Belize with me?
I didn't go to Belize. No.
I think about it now. It's just surreal to even say it. Costa Rica. You
were on most of that season. You were on that season because you were the fishing guy. I was on basically that one shoot because I begged and complained enough to get let out of the edit room.
Nice.
And actually go shoot something that they let me do that one.
So talk about that shoot, because that was kind of, I think too, that was kind of a bonding experience for us.
Oh
too.
Yeah, that was your and I's first like big hurrah. I mean, we already we had hung out some and we were friends, but I mean that was our first like bonding hurrah. Yeah, and to be honest, like I wish I remembered the details better than I do. But
well,
I mean,
especially you've just finished a thing of whiskey there, so that makes it even harder. But
I was probably finishing a thing of whiskey when we were on the shoot.
We started in Louisiana. Remember, we started in Louisiana, and we did something. Remember, we were in the Gulf. Remember that we went to the Gulf, and we were doing skeet shooting off that boat. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. And did we fish some rigs and stuff?
Yeah. And I'll never we're fishing like for snapper, like off those offshore oil rigs. And so, but we're coming back and we're doing skeet shooting off of this boat while we're running in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, they just like pull out the skeet shooter and start launching skeet out into the air and like.
And I'll never forget, like, whenever I hear Rihanna's Umbrella, you know that song Umbrella, under my umbrella, Ella, Ella. That song was blasting as I'm shooting skeet off this, off this boat, and I'm thinking to myself, I look back at those memories, I go, that's pretty damn cool, like that that happened.
Not really a normal thing to do. I don't think.
No,
if anybody else watching out there has ever shot skeet off the back of a offshore boat, I guess we'll stand corrected. But I don't think it's very normal.
Playing.
No. While Rihanna's Umbrella is playing, then send us a note.
And so on the very same shoot, we start. It was like the grand tour. This
was like a 2-week shoot.
Yeah, we do it. We're in we go to Louisiana, and then
remember the shrimp boil. We had an awesome shrimp boil.
Yeah. So then we have
Cajun shrimp boil thing. Oh, so good.
I mean, I almost
remember we walked through. Was that where we walked? Were they rice paddies?
Yeah.
We did. I don't remember exactly what we were doing there, but I remember
crawfish.
We walked through those fields.
Wasn't it for the crawfish? Yeah, remember Maybe. It was a crawfish boil. And that's where they live.
We went and got the crawfish?
I think so. Yeah.
See, I forgot that part. I just remember being out in those rice paddy fields.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really know that they even had down there. But
yeah, that's prime crawfish habitat. So then we go to Florida, right? We went to the Keys. Remember, right? Or was it Key Largo? Yeah, we went remember?
Well, we did both the Keys and we did up around Miami. Because remember the iguana? There was a cold snap and the iguanas were, or was she shooting the iguanas?
Yes,
or what
shooting iguanas.
Some of the iguanas.
Yeah, so was
she shooting them?
Yeah, so she's shooting them. So we're in these canals, right, in Key Largo, and all of these homes so iguanas are not a native species to Florida. They've been released by pet owners, and now there's a population that's gone crazy of iguanas in Florida. So you can take them, you can eat them, you can whatever you want to do with them. So they encourage it, and so we did a thing. It's just like television. We did an iguana shoot. In these canals, an iguana hunt.
River. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah. And so that was Key Largo, and then
that was Key Largo.
I think it was Key Largo, yeah. And then remember we went to Nobu in Miami. Remember that, the sushi?
Yeah.
Did you remember that?
Yeah.
We went there, and I'll never forget it. Here's this high-end sushi place in Miami that the crew's going to, right? And I'm like, oh man, and one of the producers was super excited that we actually are able to get into Nobu because it's this elitist place to eat, and I'll never forget it. Super expensive. And I love sushi, but this is this is highfalutin
next
place.
Level.
So I'll never forget, I'm wearing sandals. I don't know why I was allowed to wear sandals, but I had sandals on. And I remember feeling something crawl over my foot. And I was like, that is interesting. So I looked down, and here's a goddamn cockroach. It just walked over my foot. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Nobu. Yeah. Freaking cockroach. I'm like, that's why. I just, in general, I like that. I like, just humility. This whole restaurant that's so cocky, meanwhile has cockroaches, running around the... I know it's an inanimate object. The restaurant cannot be cocky, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, no, the clientele and the atmosphere tends to be that way. So, it's a grounding experience in the midst of all the snobbery that happens if you go to Nobu ever.
But it's just it's one of those memories that I just have associated with that shoot. Is that that was Nobu, and that's when the cockroach crawled over my foot.
Now you went home for a little bit.
Did I?
During that shoot? I think so.
Okay.
I think he went back to Tulsa and didn't, or am I mixing that up?
Maybe because we went to the Bahamas together. That same shoot, remember?
Right.
Then we flew to the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, but I remember going like way down the Keys, and for some reason in my head I thought it was me and Jeff and Cindy.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm pretty sure that I was there though, because I remember going way down.
Maybe you just went to bed early that one night.
It's very possible.
Then other things happened.
Right. So we ended up going to the Bahamas. But do you remember how cool that experience was? Do you remember? Did you ever get? So we meet up with this guy, and I know that some people listening might be like, "These sons of bitches." We're bragging about this. Keep in mind, most of the stuff we do, it's not glamorous, and really, most people would be thinking it's crazy. Like. Especially filming tournaments, it's very taxing. But there are moments where, it can be very cool. The Bahamas. So on this trip, we then, it was basically we started in Louisiana, then Florida, then we went to the Bahamas, if I'm not mistaken. Right? That's right, Dustin. Mm-hmm. So, we go to the Bahamas, and we meet up with just like this rich dude that's got a yacht. Remember that? And he's got a helicopter. Remember that? And we used the helicopter to get aerial shots. He's like, "No, I'll just take you up in my helicopter. We get some aerial shots." We get off these helicopters.
Right. I mean,
we had dinner in this place.
Where does that?
Remember that?
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, come over, have dinner." I was like, and this guy's like, who knows who he was? Super wealthy. He's got a yacht. He's got a helicopter. He's like in the Bahamas, and he's just like befriended us, and for all I know, you know what I got to thinking about? Was that Jeffrey Epstein? It could have been Jeffrey Epstein. Now I think about it.
I mean, I didn't even know who Jeffrey Epstein was at the time.
He was super nice. I mean, I think it might have been Jeffrey Epstein.
He's trying to lure you to his sex slave. It's like a sex cave of, like debauchery, and he probably saw you as tender meat.
In fact, I mean, we were on, that could have been Little St. James, the island that we were on there. And, Jeffrey's island, and I'm kind of worried now.
We might have wandered astray, Yeah. Well, let's face it, the only reason we talk about this stuff is because we're like, I mean, like I said, if people are watching this and think we're just like, just blowing our experiences here, and it's like, it's because we're just like, we're normal people, and like if that happened to you, you would talk about it too, because it's so out of the normal from like how we grew up and what normal life was. It's just like, these are just. And nothing, it's like we haven't really had any shoots like that since. I don't think I haven't. I mean, I don't know. You maybe high fluting around into exotic places that I don't know about. Maybe Dayton, Tennessee, or
Dayton, Tennessee,
or
it is a wonderful Dale Hollow. Is Dale Hollow Reservoir there?
Yeah.
I think I've been there.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. You tell me when you have to bail, because I can just talk your ear off. So don't feel like if you got to go, you just you let me know.
I mean, my only obstacle is hopefully I'm not talking too loud to keep my wife up.
Yeah,
that's my only.
That's both of our obstacles. So
let me poke my head.
Yeah, make sure everything's okay there, Dustin. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, he's going to investigate, make sure that his wife is soundly asleep. But there's also another shoot that I really remember with Dustin that was very fun, and this comes back around to Skeet. Skeet Reese has this giant truck. It's an F650 that he had custom made. So it's a huge work truck, but he's made it into a luxury truck. So it's an F650 super truck, right? And so Dustin and I were on a shoot for this Roll With It show that I hosted, and that was in Georgia. So this guy he's made trucks for Shaq. What this guy does is he takes F650s, which are meant for they're work trucks, and he converts them into luxury trucks for celebrities, or for whoever wants to have them. So Dustin and I, we did this shoot. Everything okay? There you go. Now you're partying. So is your...
I really had to go to the bathroom, and I sort of needed a refill. So
no problem. So I'm just going over our F650 Super Truck experience. So we go to Georgia, and you know, we're getting a tour of this place, and I'm driving this F650 Super Truck, and I'll never forget this. This is one of the funniest things. The behind the scenes is really, the stories are always better than the actual show itself. And I'll never forget, you had lit this, so with this style of show that we did, the story of the show is kind of moved forward with interviews. We call them, like, in the business, spine takes. There's different names for them. So, I'm sat down and interviewed, and then we interview the guest or whatever, and then we kind of use our sound bites to propel the story forward, and that's kind of that kind of style of show. What's that?
Of where you're going. It's kind of like the blueprint, the show.
Right.
You kind of know where you're going to go.
So Dustin had set up this beautiful shot of this big F650 Super Truck in the background that myself and the guest are going to be interviewed in front of, right? And so we're setting everything up. I do my interview, and then it's time for the guest, the owner of this F650 Super Truck business, to do his interview. And I'll never forget, this gentleman's wife comes out and just berates him. Like, I mean, here's a guy running a successful business, making a lot of money by all accounts, and his wife comes out and just skewers him. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I wish I could. I don't remember, like, what it was about, but I remember it was like one of the more awkward things that you'd ever encountered.
And then we have to interview
in front of everybody.
In front of everybody. And so then we got to, like, interview this guy, and he's just been whooped, whatever. I mean, like, his
whipped.
Yeah. And it was just a funny thing. Like, I'm like, oh my God, we got to get this done and get the hell out of here, because it's so awkward.
Oh yeah.
And she's mad that he's taking time doing this, doing the show.
Yeah, I do think it was, like, I don't know if they had somewhere they were supposed to go, but there was definitely, like, a time factor. But yeah, I definitely remember us all being like, we got to get the heck out of here.
Yeah,
because it's now officially awkward.
Yeah, it was bizarre. So that was, I mean, Dustin and I have a lot of history, and then now it's cool. Now as freelancers, when we were working together in Wintercom, we were employees. So now as freelancers, we're freelancers now, but it's cool that we have this gig where we see each other on a regular basis, and it's I'm very thankful for it, my friend.
Well, and I think, like, I often, like, think about what we do, and it's not just not only within the Major League Fishing circle, and some people kind of cross over, but, like, I find it odd that, like, sometimes I find it odd that I work with so many people that I really truly enjoy, just, like, hanging around with, and I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's normal for sure. Like, if normal people who go to work at an office or whatever, if they're like, man, I really like hanging around with Frank, and, like, they hang out on weekends or whatever, but, like, like, if we lived closer, we would hang around together all the time. Like, when I happened to, I got a ESPN football game up in Minnesota this year, and in Minneapolis, and obviously the first thing I did was text Greg and be like, hey, I am in Minneapolis, I'm coming to your house, so make way. And
and it was awesome.
And I hung out with Greg at his house, and and that's there wasn't any question in my mind, like, hey, if I'm up in Minneapolis, I'm gonna, as long as Greg's home, I'm going to his house. And,
yes,
and I don't
please
normal.
Call me whenever that happens. You're always welcome here. So yeah, It's really legitimately, like I said when we left REDCREST, when we were all kind of making our separate ways, I told everybody I like legitimately love, this group. It sounds corny, whatever, but it's true. Like, I mean, it's really a family. Like, I really, I really love the group, and enjoy people's company and the camaraderie that we have as a group. And when we're on a text thread when we're out shooting, and if we have, a lot of times there's lulls, we're not going to act like there isn't, and we can text each other, crack jokes, in this text thread of the group. And
I wish people could hear the fun that is being had, like, in our ears. Like, so for anybody who doesn't know, how kind of live TV normally goes along, like, there's a director, a producer, and if you're on, whether it's a football game or what, there's somebody in your ear who is going to be, at the very least, telling everybody where, which camera is on, where they're going to go, like what's next, like, the director. On these, we have both our director and our producer, Dean and Corbin, in our ear. And that's a huge benefit because it's more laid back than a football game per se, because the action isn't as fast as football, and there isn't time for a lot of joke cracking. But in fishing, there's time for joke cracking. And so if only people could hang out with us throughout from an audio standpoint, like, we get so much entertainment just listening to the behind the scenes that's going on, that it's really
it's a lot of fun. The live shows really make the day go by faster too. It's just entertaining. Both Corbin and Dean, the directors of the live show, they got a great sense of humor. And it's just, there's so much nonsense. It's the kind of nonsense that I love, like really, really nonsense. Like it's just
probably, I mean, stuff that can't be broadcast all the time.
Right.
And it's just like, sometimes I feel like we're just barely making TV. like we're also, we're so into like we're cracking jokes and we're talking about stuff that we're just like skating by making TV and in the midst of like laughing about stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're out there, when you think about what we do, there's not another sporting event that it lasts that long, and we're out there for a Bass Pro Tour event.
Not even close.
6 days, So,
and how many hours a day?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's 8 hours 8 hours. I mean, we're out there.
I mean,
so there's a lot of time for, and listen, life's short, man. We take our job very seriously, but there's time to, to have fun. We're having fun out there too.
You have to have fun.
Yeah.
Or else we wouldn't survive.
Yeah. Cause it's super taxing, and especially, you have weather issues. I mean, it's not for everybody. You can't be you have to have a strong constitution to do this job. You know what I mean? Not
every camera guy is gonna, and not just camera guys. I mean, for everybody who's involved in making a 8 or 10 hour TV show, whatever it is, like it's just not going to be for everybody. And we can give credit to, I mean, the on air talent just as much. Like those guys have to.
Totally.
We've been doing this for an hour and a half talking to each other, which seems easy because we're having fun, but they've got to actually talk about what they're seeing on the screen. And guys fishing for, like I said, how was it, 8 hours or 9 hours? Or what? I mean, it's like, I don't know how they do it. They're Chad and JT and Marty are they're beasts, man. They
it's exactly right. There's nothing like it in typical like sports broadcasting to be on. And Chad comes from a professional background in that, like you could tell he's just even listening to him, in your ear, like it's like, this guy is a pro, dude. Like, I mean, but he's
driving the bus.
He's driving the bus, and I guarantee he doesn't have another gig where it's that long that he's talking, and he's got to be that guy. You've got to be, that is exhausting. I mean, just the little bit that I've done, where you have to kind of carry something, whether you're, I've emceed some tournaments for the Wild West Bass Trail. And those are, I guess those are like 2 hour long. I'm trying to think how long those were, like roughly 2 hours, I guess. And honestly, to be that person where you're trying to be entertaining, professional, and be that broadcaster, essentially have that personality, it's taxing. So for them to do that long and then to, for a number of days, it's easy for us to say with a camera on our shoulder, it's like, oh, that's so much easier, but it's its own kind of difficulty.
It's different. It's a mental difficulty. Hey, I'm going to take an off ramp here and just we've got some things we also want to. We didn't really wrap up Red. Do we need to wrap up REDCREST? Did we even start on REDCREST?
Yeah. No, that was the next thing I was going to say. So talk about let's go into REDCREST.
Yeah. What do you think about REDCREST?
So my experience with REDCREST, I was with Zach Burge on the last day, and I really thought that he had a very good chance of winning the whole thing.
Oh, he did,
because
he did for sure.
He basically he had saved a lot of like brush piles. He wasn't, he had a lot in his back pocket still that he wasn't even going to, right? Yeah. And so he was just kind of saving for that last day. So, but what was interesting,
was he throwing a jerkbait on him?
No.
Like Connell?
No. So that's and so, I had done we were going to hang out the last night, but I had to do a YouTube. I didn't have to, but I did a YouTube video where I just kind of summed up my REDCREST experience. And I talked about it like, so what Zach Burge was doing, he was slow rolling a spinnerbait, totally different presentation. It was just a slow presentation through that where Dustin Connell.
I saw Stephen Browning doing that earlier in the week, and I don't know if it was necessarily over brush piles, but I saw him doing the same thing, slow rolling a spinnerbait. Yeah,
but that jerkbait deal, dude, like bass are like cats. And I heard JT talking about it on the live show. And it's totally true, dude. They're bass are highly triggerable. It's one of the huge keys to Kevin Van Dam's success. He knew how to trip their trigger better than anybody. And he also just knew that it was a mathematical equation. The more he ripped and run and gunned and made more presentations in a day, triggering fish, that
more spots, more casts.
Yeah. But what's happened now is that, Kevin basically raised the bar. And so now you have this young crop of anglers that grew up watching Kevin Van Dam kick ass. And that's who Jacob Wheeler, all these guys are. Dustin Connell, look at how their style. It's they don't waste time, dude. They know how to do it. And so Dustin Connell, he takes that jerkbait, which is like Kevin's was a jerkbait killer.
Right.
And he takes that jerkbait and he knows that even a fish that isn't necessarily hungry, you can trip their trigger like a cat. If they work a cat toy a certain way, all of a sudden my cats will just be like, I'm on it. Cats do the same thing.
It's like the laser.
Bass will do the same thing, dude. And so that jerkbait is that deeper jerkbait over that brush pile, that was it. And so Zach Burge, he was still slow rolling that stuff and they just weren't. They had probably many of them been caught already, and so but that erratic jerkbait, made all the difference. Obviously, Dustin. I mean, I don't know where Dustin was fishing necessarily, but I imagine very similar brush piles. It was just the presentation. It sounded like was the key to it. Who were you with that week?
Well, before I lose my train of thought, it also sounded like, at least from what I was hearing and looking at it, like he was using that deep running jerkbait, whereas I think maybe one or two other guys were also throwing a jerkbait over brush piles, but maybe it wasn't getting us down as far as quickly or whatever.
Right.
So
I think that's a big deal.
He was obviously on to something. On the last day I was with Mark Davis, which obviously he's a long history of very good fishermen.
Right.
But it was not his day.
Yeah. And it's a different, and here's the thing too, man, dude, like it's a different, you see it, we see it now. We totally see it. Like the veterans, they're at a different gear. They're on a different gear. These young anglers, like I said, they are the spawn, if you will, of Van Damme, which sounds really bad.
Does Van Damme know about his spawn?
I'm telling him right now. Without Van Damme, you would not have a
Kevin,
wheeler. Like he just
you have spawned these people.
He's responsible. Is what I'm. Van Damme is responsible for these killers, these young killers, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And so now it's like that's the gear that you have to be in to be competitive. And some of these, I hate to say it, but it's true. It's like I'm 45. I know that there's always going to be someone younger that's coming up. That's where there's these. You know what I'm saying? It's these guys are. I don't see how.
Van Damme's not the young buck he once was either.
I know.
These guys are, like you said, they've taken what they watched him, like they grew up on him, and they've taken that and injected some steroids into it to some extent. And I said,
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. We see. I see it, like I said, again, as a not. Greg is a very good angler. I am just a man who occasionally holds a fishing pole. But when you have a front seat on some of that stuff, you just kind of see it from a 30,000 foot view sometimes, where you're like, some things at least to me seem more apparent than others that probably aren't apparent when you're in the moment as an angler fishing, and you're like, man, there's always like hindsight is 20/20, like armchair quarterbacking is not cool, but there are some consistencies that you see in terms of, like you said, these guys are moving at a pace that, like you said, the math is going to dictate. Like if you throw more casts and you hit more spots, there's a solid chance you're gonna find whatever, you're gonna figure out what's happening.
Right.
And there's the rare occasions, I suppose, that can be a detriment where, you have to slow down. But these guys are also like, you can tell they're versatile. And to some extent, I think they know when they need to slow down and they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yep.
And I feel like it might be easier to slow down than to speed up. I don't know.
Right.
You tell me.
No, I think, it's just to be competitive anymore. Especially in the Major League Fishing format, it's just, I think there needs to be a tempo, and the good ones do know that, okay, I do need to slow down here. There is those times where, it's like you do need to slow your presentation down. That's where I think, the veterans are probably going to have an advantage there when that happens. But it's you do see that Stephen Browning he's been doing this for many, many years. He has a good tempo. As far as the veteran anglers, I've fished with him a few times. He's I'm not saying that
him at the beginning of the week.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. So it's easy to kind of make blanket statements, but it's. The thing about these young anglers is that all of them are versatile. Every single one of them, these new, this crop that's like just on fire, they can do everything, Yeah. And it's weird. Like they've got this experience, like that seems like beyond their years. Like Jordan Lee is a perfect example of that. It's like he just has this, like an instinctual, just kind of, and not worried about much. That's the other thing. Like Dustin Connell is
so chill.
Like Dustin Connell's chill. Like, you ever worked with Dustin?
Yeah.
Like Dustin Connell's like super, like, and Jacob Wheeler, like he's got but Jacob Wheeler's always been, for me, good to work with. Like he's just there's another.
Oh yeah. I think Wheeler can tend to I feel like he does, like he gets amped, but it's not in the same like category of like total freak out that some guys get.
Right.
You get towards the end and you're down, and you watch some of these guys kind of have a little bit of a meltdown, and it's just like they're just moving to move, and there's no there isn't necessarily a focus behind it. It's just like they know that where they're at is not happening, and it's just like boom, 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 move, 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 and on occasion that works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think, I don't know, my times with Wheeler, you see there's still even towards the end, if he's down and he does start moving faster and faster, but there's still an undercurrent of focus of he's still got a plan somewhere in there of okay, if it gets down to it, I'm still down. I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and I'm going to do it really fast.
Right. Right.
And so there's still an element of composure there that you don't really see all the time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Connell is always chill, and Jordan Lee is probably the most chill. He's just.
Yeah, that's my experience too.
Yeah, he doesn't get frazzled at all.
No. Yeah,
he's not very old.
No, it's pretty amazing to see that, because I don't know, it just seems to be a maturity level there, that's, but everybody, I think about this too, I'm 45, everybody's young to me, for the most part.
Well,
you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even 40. I mean, I just look at you as just a.
I am this year.
Okay, well, you're still
40 this year.
I don't know. You're 30. Well, you're 39, and that's just you. Look, you just it's. You have this you have this youthful exuberance about you, because you're 39. That's how I look at it anymore. So REDCREST, tell me about your REDCREST experience. Now there was one.
So
something kind of stands out for me when I think of your REDCREST experience. What? Do you know what I'm about to?
I have no idea. I'm afraid.
So you got to, and everybody was talking about how the water temperature was going to be rising.
Oh, that. Yeah, jeez.
So what happened there? Go ahead, just set that up.
Well, we were talking about Justin Lucas earlier, who I'm a fan of. I like that guy. I like all the guys for the most part. But we I think the boat launch area in the morning is probably it's a little bit more hazardous than we give it credit for in the morning, because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of boats in the water in a small area, and this wasn't even a big field. This was a field of 30 as opposed to 40 at a time, which we would normally have on a Bass Pro Tour morning. Anyway, we're all kind of in the morning getting our shit
we're
together.
Assigned anglers the night before, so we the morning we go looking for our angler.
We get on the boat with our angler. Somebody puts us in the water, we get out there, but we're kind of all trying to we're getting anglers mic'd up, we're getting our Bluetooth headsets going so we can hear the truck and we can hear a microphone, and I don't know how you do it, but I put my angler in one set of Bluetooth, and then I put the truck in another set of Bluetooth, and so I'm on what morning, I don't know what morning that was, but I'm getting my headphones and everything ready. So I've got my camera on the back of the boat. I'm just kind of leaning over, turning stuff on, and I look up, and Justin Lucas had kind of come off of the, he had just been put in the water or whatever. He was coming from the dock, and he was coming towards us. And so he's going this way and we're going this way in a T-bone fashion, except I look up and Lucas is not looking in the direction that he's driving at all. He's looking back somewhere, and he's driving, and he's close. He's pretty much on top of us, and I'm oh, that's not good. And at the same time, Stephen Browning, who I'm with, he sees Lucas, and he obviously thought the same thing I thought. But he's got the hot foot under his foot, which he rightfully stepped on to get out of the way. But me being on the back end of the boat, I was a product of physics.
That's a good way to. I like that. That's a good way to put it.
I was an object at rest at that moment, and the boat became an object in motion underneath me, and then and I stayed at rest, and when I stayed at rest, I went in the water, and so it was, that's the first time I've been in the water on a shoot. Rick Westfall, another cameraman, a friend of ours, he's been in the water a couple times, and we all like to give him shit about that, and now unfortunately I can't really give him too much shit because you're in joined the club, and Tom Wayne has been in the club too. I don't remember all the circumstances. I know one of Rick's jaunts in the water was hitting the dock, wasn't it? They came in on the dock hot. He kind of hit the dock and he went in, and I don't remember all the, but yeah.
So here you are.
It was cold. It was cold, but it wasn't too bad.
So what did you do after that? What did Steven, how did you get back into the boat?
It was just I went in, so I would go in completely backwards, ass first, just into the water. And it all happened so fast, it's hard to really, your brain is really, struggling to wrap around what the hell is going on. And so it's I look up, I see Lucas heading for us. Browning hits the gas. I go in the water ass first. I'm underwater. And my first thought, honestly, was I knew at the moment I last saw Justin Lucas, he wasn't really looking where he's going. And I'm like, shit. He might run over me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's, obviously a legitimate concern. That would suck. So, I'm trying to basically get up to the surface as quickly as possible to see where I'm at and what's going on. And I'm not a good swimmer. I am not very floatable. Apparently I'm very dense. I don't know what is wrong with my body, but I'm not. Side story. So I got certified, to scuba dive. And in order to get certified, you have to pass these tests. Some people you might have done it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually got certified in Tulsa.
Did you get certified in your building that you lived in, your apartment building?
No. I got certified at some scuba place there on Brookside or around there. Yeah. It was, the brook. It's right across the street from there, I think. Yeah.
So whatever joint I got certified with, our scuba test was in the pool that was in the basement of your apartment building.
No
it was after you left.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, my wife and I did it together after when we were on our honeymoon. We both did a trial dive, and we thought it was awesome. So we get certified. She's a very good swimmer. She was on a swim team. She was a lifeguard, and she doesn't weigh 1,000,000 pounds like I do. And so we go and do this test, and part of the test is you have to swim so many, I don't know how many yards. It was in my mind, it was 1,000 back and forths. It was probably 5. I don't know. It seemed like a lot.
Right.
And so and then when you get done with that, you have to tread water for a certain number of minutes. And I tell you what, I did the back and forths, and I was spent by the time, and then I had to tread water, and everybody was done before me. And I have to work to tread water. I watched my wife beside me, and she
it's like nothing.
This is her treading water. It's just she just kind of gently moves her arms,
and she's
just hanging out.
Yeah, she has no problem.
No, it's nothing. And I mean, I am back here
So that's what it looked like at REDCREST when you went.
So anyway, yeah. So when I come up out of the water, that's me basically.
Okay.
And so I come up, and I'm right beside Lucas's boat. He has realized that I am in the water, and so he reached down and gave me a hand, and I worked my way to the back of his boat and crawled in his boat, and he took me over to the dock, and I hopped off on the dock, and I had to go back to the hotel and put some dry clothes on. I thought I was just going to go. I was like, you know what? I don't really feel that cold. That was probably the adrenaline speaking, but I didn't really feel that cold. I was like, you know what? It's all good. Let's go. That's your first. I don't know. That was my first instinct. I was like, let's just go. I'll be all right.
Right.
I'll dry out. but then thankfully other people talked me out of that,
Yeah.
because I realized later that that run out in the morning would have been
it is pretty
terribly,
frigid.
horribly cold.
So what other, I mean, obviously that, that was a big moment of the week, but
Yeah.
other than that, like what kind of stands out for that, for REDCREST for you? Like it's this side of my face. Yeah, this side. I got super burned, but it's actually I'm doing all right. I almost was like, it is like I hadn't felt warmth like that in a long time, since probably about September. So I was like, I am just going to allow my face to get just hammered on this side. I'm not like, I didn't even wear sunscreen the first like real nice day, you know?
I kind of did that at Okeechobee.
Yeah. So, but, was there anything, I kind of went through it in my little recap of when I just sat down with my phone. Is there anything like, it's going to be interesting to see, what happens with REDCREST. I'm so biased with Major League Fishing. Obviously, they're one of my great.
We are.
If anybody wants, don't listen to this podcast thinking that you're going to get an unbiased interpretation or opinion.
No.
Because first of all, it would be suicide for me to do that. Like I'm not gonna just. This amazing client of mine.
No.
You think I'm?
No.
And I want them to continue to
be like, bass is awesome too.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, I got nothing against bass, but
No.
I am interested in seeing. I really love the organization. Like I said, we're a family. I'm hopeful that REDCREST, through subsequent years, it's just going to get better and better and better. And Major League Fishing, it's going to be their big event. So I'm excited. There's been so many curveballs, with COVID and everything, and I am excited to see how REDCREST evolves, and I'm excited for next year just to see what they have in store, in Tulsa, because I've always, when I lived in Tulsa, I was like, this would be a great town for a big bass fishing event. At the time when I lived there, I'm like, the Classic should come here. Like, there's no reason the Classic shouldn't, this is a great, you have the BOK Center, you have all these bass fisheries around here. It's a perfect venue. So it's super cool to see that, like, Major League Fishing based out of Tulsa and bringing, eventually is going to be bringing REDCREST there. And I'm excited to see what they'll do with it.
Yeah. And I think, I think Major League Fishing needs that signature event, and I think it is, but I do think it is like it's a work in progress that they're like, and then like you said, there's been a lot of weird kind of circumstances that with everything going on, and so I don't think this year's REDCREST was not probably what they wanted it to be in terms of like a fan experience and the hoopla and all the stuff they would like to do. But I think we'll get that opportunity next year. And, but I do think you saw it, like, Connell's winning $300,000, man. Like, that's
awesome.
The excitement, for him, is emotional. It's just cool, to know that that's the stakes are big, and that's and it sets up the rest of the season. I don't know, like, I'm sure all those guys, they all wanted to make it to REDCREST. They wanted to make it to REDCREST the year before. It's not the first REDCREST, so it's like, but I think as it grows in terms of its like popularity and importance, like, I think it'll have a downward effect on the rest of the Bass Pro season, for that feeling of like, I really got to make it to REDCREST, because that's the shit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. No, I think so as well. Well, I've appreciated, let's see how long we've been talking. We're 2 hours.
I don't know. I mean,
I knew it would happen.
Listen to us for this long?
I think, absolutely.
We have so many things we haven't touched on. Politics or religion or, we've left so many things untouched.
I'm always, whenever I look at this camera, and I apologize for people watching the video podcast that they have to see me doing this, where I'm trying to get my hair under control and under my hat more.
It's gonna tame the.
I think politics, and I'm not afraid to talk politics. I think that's kind of part of the problem. Everybody's like, "Oh, I don't." I got friends of all political persuasions, and most of them, I love them either way. I don't care. And it's like, if you're worried about talking politics because you think your friend isn't going to like you anymore, that's a problem to me. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but my point is, I'm not afraid to talk about it, but maybe we save that. Yeah, maybe we save that for another time.
We didn't even talk about B. Charlie Moore. See, this is what I told you in the beginning. Yeah. You probably didn't record this, but I've ever since we started, I've been gunning for, a recurring role every so often on this podcast.
I do want to talk about.
Now that I've gone on such lengthy diatribes about everything, it's forced you to leave some things on the table, and you'll just have to have me back. I guess.
Why don't you give me a little nugget from you? Tell me what Beat Charlie Moore is. I know what Beat Charlie Moore. We're gonna do a tease. You're gonna give me an anecdote. Tell me the story from Charlie Moore that's kind of funny, and then I'm sure just that you have many. But
I know
but tell me, first of all, tell me what Beat Charlie Moore. Don't tell me. I know what Beat Charlie Moore is, but tell our audience here, the vast, huge, group that's listening to this right now, what Beat Charlie Moore is and how you're affiliated with what.
Well, Beat Charlie Moore, in a sense, is a little antiquated name because that was back when we were at Wintercom, and that his show was in the outdoor block, and it was Beat Charlie Moore, and it's Charlie Moore he's unstoppable in a way. Hey, you think about that. He was going even before Beat Charlie Moore. He had Charlie Moore Outdoors on New England Sports Network, and then there was Beat Charlie Moore, and then there was Charlie Moore No Offense after that, and so. Which was on NBC Sports Network and now is, I think, regionally distributed. It's on Amazon Prime. And if I don't get all the things, he's probably going to punch me in the dick. But
has he done that before? Is this
he's threatened to. Okay. Threatened to many times. But I would say Charlie Moore is about fun and chaos at the same time. It's and no matter what kind of format it's in, the Beat Charlie Moore format was this, and Charlie Moore No Offense is different, and even the beginning of Charlie Moore No Offense is a little different from where Charlie Moore No Offense is now. But he, if you've seen him, you kind of already know. If you haven't, he's Boston guy who is he's passionate about fishing and food and cigars and fun and saying just whatever the fuck he wants to say on TV, and that's kind of his deal. And so I've had pretty much as long a relationship as I've had with Greg, I've had with Charlie, and he's a friend of mine. And so anyway, like I said, we could save the in-depth for another time, but he's a good dude. But it's like I said, there is no
shortage of stories. I can't. I mean,
oh no, I mean,
the behind the scenes of that has got to be crazy.
There is no there's no off button. There's no like, this is the way he is on TV and this is the way in his real life. He just is like, he's Charlie. And yeah, it's not like there's not an act or a shtick. It's just, he just does what he does.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's fun and it's chaos every shoot.
I did want to ask you, you know, as a, I'm always.
You're gonna have to edit this, by the way.
What do you mean?
You think?
Well, how? What do you mean?
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, I'm just shocked that anybody would listen to us for this long.
Oh no! This is for sure. No, over 2 hours.
For all
absolutely.
you still listening out there, I'll send you $1.
No, people are captivated right now by this whole thing.
I know.
So
I love it. This is so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet, man.
Enjoying this shit.
Yeah. It's
I don't
fun.
know why? Just because it's with you.
Well, it's also, you know, I listen to a ton of like Joe Rogan, you know, and this is what's kind of given me confidence to do these longer podcasts, because I will listen to a 3-hour long Joe Rogan podcast. I'm finishing one right now. Not right now, but you know what I'm saying. Actually, it's in this year.
That'd be funny.
Isn't that amazing? And this year, I'm listening to Joe Rogan. This year, I'm listening to you. I'm multitasking. But no, like, he's given me like confidence to go, okay, yeah, these long form conversations. You know, if you keep the conversation going, it's just candid. It's almost like it's like for people, it's very natural for us to like just to want to listen to a conversation. It feels like, I feel like when I'm listening to Joe Rogan or any podcast where there's people just having a conversation, but you know, and they're it's odd, but it's not what we're told that should be. We're not told that should be entertaining, right? Like we've been.
No, everybody's fed. It's fed to us in like these quick sound bites.
Right.
You know? It's just like blah 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 blah, and then gone.
But this longer form, just let the conversation flow. Like Rogan's shown that you can this idea of how things are supposed to be with like sound bites and everything's moving at this clip, you know. People are liking these long form podcasts. It's different than what we've been told we're supposed to like. And you can just get more into subject matter. You can dive deeper into stuff, and you get to know people more. You get to, you know, it's a very personal experience, you know, when you're listening to a podcast like that, when you're, you know, so I'm not shying away from doing these long podcasts anymore. We're over 2 hours, but if we have things that I feel are interesting, you know, I feel like whoever likes what I
think we're interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not like might make a long story short. I'm not. I think it's.
We're not worried about that.
Yeah, I ain't worried about it. So, but I do want to.
Well, and that's why I gravitate to. I just want to throw a plug in for NPR out there, because I do. I mean, that's why I gravitate towards NPR when I listen to stuff on the radio. I'm like, because they tend to, not the, you know, it's not this long, but you know, I think they tend to, like you said, the stuff on there, they dive a little deeper, and you get to listen to something for a little longer, and it's not just like these 20-second soundbite crap that you don't get any context to.
And the thing is, too, I'm not to keep harping on Rogan, but so I grew up, I mean, I've always loved radio. You know, I grew up actually being listening to Howard Stern when I was in high school. I was like, who the hell is this guy? You know, and then I was hooked on Howard until more recent. Within, I don't know, last 10 years, I've been more of a Joe Rogan. I've kind of transitioned to Joe Rogan in these longer conversations. And just what he's doing with the medium, it's given me, it's just listening to him on a pretty regular basis, it's given me confidence to go, okay, these can be longer, and you can just be yourself, dude. People, like, the beauty of the internet is people are done with, you know, you see people in particular that really like YouTube that they don't want so much they want reality, like real reality. I'll put it that way. They want just candid, genuine, no BS
Humans.
They want, and so,
Right.
and you get that with podcasts that are just like, we're just gonna have a conversation, like two friends talking about things, and Rogan does that, and it's like, okay, well, that's the number one podcast in the world, and I'm
for a reason.
yeah,
right?
And I'm trying to get off. I mean, dude, I'm trying to get off this whole thing where I have to be like, oh, I gotta like speak in this like broadcasting tone, and it's that in many ways, dude, it's kind of antiquated. Like at least on this medium, like it doesn't, you don't need to do that. Like the internet, it's less important. In fact, it's probably discouraged. Like you probably shouldn't,
right.
So
I know my buddy Doug. Doug, Dougie Fresh.
Yeah.
He likes the podcast Daddy Issues, and I haven't listened to a ton of them, but
it's a very successful podcast.
Another successful podcast, and also I think, like I said, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a couple of guys just talking, and it's just real, man.
Right?
And I think that's why people like listening to it.
And that's why I thought, when I was flying back from Alabama, that I was like, no, like these conversations like that we could have where we talk about our experience in the business and our experiences with anglers. I think that's interesting. Now I could be wrong, but there's the beauty of the internet is that there's an audience out there. Like there is someone out there that will find this interesting. There's, so I really don't worry about it too much. To me, if it's like, I feel like if it's a conversation that I want to have, that I feel would be interesting, there's people out there that will want to listen to it too then. Like that's how I'm kind of going, how I'm operating on it. But
I agree.
I
mean, so, I'm hopeful that's I'm hopeful that it's like roughly 100 to 500,000 people.
Yeah, like I think definitely this will have those numbers. Those will. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated on how we're doing with with the downloads.
Right. I don't need any extra money if that happens. Just so you know, I want to be clear up front that I don't really expect anything.
This thing is fully monetized. You will get a cut.
I want to see as successful. But if you do get like super cool sponsors, like I don't know, like One Wheel. You ever seen a One Wheel?
Yeah, One Wheel. Yeah.
Like if they come on as a sponsor, like if you throw me a One Wheel, that's cool.
You bet. I did want to, before we go though, what are some stupid things fishermen say when you're on the boat? Is there, like, how many times, dude, like first of all, I'm a fisherman, so I'm making fun of myself here a little bit. But one of the things that's a real pet peeve of mine, I got to tell you, is that there are some anglers that consider cameramen to be bad luck. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so getting on the boat with those anglers can be really uncomfortable because it's like, I am this. They had their whole day planned out, right? Yeah. I'm like
You're a burden, Greg.
I'm a burden, or I'm trying to think of another word. My vocabulary is really shot.
You're like the banana on the boat.
Yes, that's exactly right. So do you have you experienced that, or like you or like,
well,
what's happened here lately is there's one, I'm not going to say what angler it is, but there's one angler that he's associating me with bad luck. Like he's like, okay, the last time you were with me, I didn't do well, and now you're with me again, and I didn't do well. So I'm like, I'm kind of concerned that now,
And here's the deal: you know that when you get with a guy like that, like, you're not the issue. The issue is in their head already. Like, the issue is their head. Like, they're already making excuses for why they're gonna suck. Like, just, if they have a good day, then it's cool. You're cool now. All of a sudden, you're released from your bad luck charm status. But if they suck, which is more than likely to happen because they've already like sort of predetermined that in their own head, you're just the scapegoat. And yeah, that's a classic, like, stupid, it's just stupid. My other stupid thing that I like to laugh about in my head on the boat, and it only comes with the advent of MLF and Score Tracker, really, is that my favorite dumb line is, "This lake sucks."
Yes, dude.
This lake sucks. This lake's horrible. Why did they bring us to this shitty lake? This lake's horrible.
Yeah.
God, I hate it here. Can we go somewhere else?
Yes.
I mean, here's the deal. Like, if you can't admit your own faults, like, you're screwed already.
Right.
Like, I can admit when I suck. Like, there's days as a cameraman when I'm just like, I know. I come back and I'm like, I wasn't very good today.
Yeah. Right.
I wasn't paying attention. I was not very good. Like, I know when I suck, and I will admit that.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I'll be the first to stand up and go, you know what? I was bad today. I didn't, and not just on fishing, like other stuff too. Like, there's times where I know, like I'm going to on Thursday, I'm going to go to the American Rodeo in Dallas, and rodeo's a interesting sport to shoot, but, it's fast paced, and just like football games, like things that are fast paced, like there's times where you feel like you're on it, you're like, you're anticipating, you're getting good shots, and it's all kind of like a flow. And then there's times where it's just, you sucked.
Yeah.
and
yep.
And I walk away from a game like that, and I can say to somebody, I sucked. I wasn't very good. And so the whole "this lake sucks" thing is hilarious when the boat official on MLF is giving them updates, and it's like, every 5 minutes, so and so caught a 2-pound 6-ounce bass, and he's up to 40 pounds and whatever, and they've got 2 pounds, and they're like, oh God, I hate this lake. This is horrible. Why did they bring us here? And you're like, well, clearly, like, those 5 guys don't think it sucked.
Right, exactly. No, it's I know that is one of my pet peeves as well. I mean, that's a big pet peeve of mine. Yeah, and the thing,
we're not naming any names.
No,
here.
No. Of course not.
No,
of course not.
No, but it happens a lot, and you probably don't see it on TV because that stuff all gets edited out or whatever. But like, it happens a lot, and you're just like, this doesn't really make any sense because there's a lot of guys catching fish. It's just you're just not doing good today, and that's okay. Just admit it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's like an AA session or something.
Yeah. The thing is too, like in these events, like I just fishing more than anything. If there's a young angler listening that wants to get into this as a career, just wants to tournament fish more, you have to be understanding that most tournament fishing is grinding. It's grind. You're going to grind. And the whole time, if you want to be successful, you never take your foot off the gas, and you grind it out. And those are the best anglers. They use every minute of their day. And the complaining thing, you need to not do that.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah. Put your head down.
And the other thing, in addition to the grind, is like, and we talked about it. We talked about it this week at REDCREST. Like, if you're doing something for quite a while and it ain't working, even if you don't know what else to do, it doesn't matter. Just go do something else. Like, for your own sanity.
For the cameraman sanity. Exactly. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But here's the deal. If you look at logic and math, like, if you're doing something and you're for a half the day and you're clearly not winning, like, you're not even close to winning, you're definitely like, you're going down like the Titanic. Like, your chance of winning is 0% at that point, right? Like, 0.
Right.
Like, you're not going to win. You're not going to make the next day. You're not going to do anything. So you often hear the rationale of like, well, I don't know what else to do. I don't know where else to go. Okay, that may be true, but at that point, like anywhere else on the lake is some at least a minuscule percentage of a chance better than where you're sitting right now.
Yeah.
Like just take that chance and go do something else. And there's a good chance it may not result in anything, but at least you did something other than die on the same spot or bait or whatever it is that you're keeping doing. Like the chances that all of a sudden the bass just come around and be like, you know what? We've waited 2/3 of the day and we haven't bit your shit, but now like we've decided that it looks awesome and we're going to eat the shit out of it and you're going to win the tournament. It's not going to happen.
It's I hear you. I'm right there with
sudden,
you, man.
You know what? Your swim bait looks delicious. You know what? We've waited around all day. We've been watching your swim bait go by in the same fucking spot all day. And you know what? Now it looks delicious. I'm going to eat that.
I
don't think the bass do that.
There's a lot of complexities in the underwater world. I mean,
I'm not a fisherman. I don't
fish. No. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I've felt that way many a time. I've felt that way. I armchair quarterback, I guess, is in the back of the boat. I do it. Yes,
that's definitely what it is, for sure.
And I'm like, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I don't understand what's going on right now. This is not the move.
Yeah.
And we do have, I mean, there is quite a benefit. That's the fact that we're able to see the different styles of anglers and kind of see what works more often than not as far as like styles, And yeah, there's times where I've been with anglers where I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing right now. More often than not, I'm impressed by them, but there are a few times doing this where I'm like, I am at a loss here with what's happening, but I'm there to document, and that's what I do. But there's some times where it's I've been like kind of there's been a few times where I've just been kind of like, I can't believe that that this is happening. I just
try to put myself in their shoes, and it's like, I feel like even if let's just say you're going by MLF format and you've got 3 periods, right? And so by the 3rd period, if you're like at the bottom of the pack at the 3rd period and you've been doing relatively the same thing in the same spot, 2 spots all day, like you've got nothing to lose at that point.
Right.
Like you're so far behind that you're not going to win it, but you could get more money if you move up the ladder. And so for me, it's just like you've spent 2/3 of your day trying this path, like, and so just like I said, for your own sanity's sake, just move on for 1 period and try something else. And there's a good chance it won't work, but man, at least you can say you did something.
Yeah.
To change
I agree.
But
I agree.
I don't know. Why are we talking about this?
Who knows? Why are we talking about anything?
I don't know. I don't know how I got here.
Well,
I love you, man.
I love you too, and I'm very excited that you decided to come on another fishing podcast. So thank you.
It wasn't even a decision. It was just an honor to be asked.
Well,
there's no other answer other than yes.
I'm appreciative, and I'm going to get this podcast up tomorrow. And I'm going to pick a clip from this. I'm not sure yet what clip it's going to be, but it will go on the Angling Uploaded YouTube channel as well, a clip from this podcast. So the audio will go up tomorrow, and maybe the clip, I might put a clip up on the YouTube channel tomorrow. But you had made a comment about sponsors We don't have
Who
sponsors.
should we thank?
Yeah. So who our sponsors are our patrons. I'm sure you've heard of Patreon.
Yes.
We have a Patreon account. You can go to patreon.com, angling / or / angling uploaded. Just go to patreon.com, angling uploaded. That's the best way. I'm doing a plug right here, Dustin. You're gonna see me.
People should do that.
So we have a new patron. So his name is Pete Shaw, and Pete has been a supporter of what we've been doing here with another fishing show and another fishing podcast, and he's been along with our journey since Pete Wagner and I started this thing. Like, just seeing us tripping over ourselves and doing all kinds of mistakes and like just trying to wade.
He's a real dude.
Yeah,
Pete Shaw.
Pete Shaw's a real guy, and he's a fan
Thanks,
of ours, and he's become a patron. So he's supporting us through Patreon, which is the best way to support us. So if you want to, we don't have any sponsors. I'm not against sponsors. I've told the audience this before, Dustin, but the thing that I worry about sponsors, just in the general sense, is that you kind of, in some, not all sponsors, but you might be kind of restricted on maybe what you feel you can talk about, whereas I like the business model of your fans supporting you, and so that's what Patreon offers. So if you become a patron, and how we set it up is we don't have any tiers of payments. It's just like, you figure out what you think the value is that we're bringing to you. And if you come up with what you're comfortable paying monthly, and then this is what you get. So we do, we're going to do giveaways and like exclusive like live streams. And then I give a shout out, like Pete Shaw, he's our new patron. So I'll give you a shout out on our podcast. Yeah. And so, very much appreciated, Pete, for becoming a patron. And then, so I'm trying to make that like an exclusive. The content goes up there before anywhere else, and sometimes days before anywhere else. So,
gotcha.
So wanted to give Pete a shout out, but thanks, dude, for and it's late, and I appreciate you doing this kind of short notice, and
it was so much fun, and I still don't totally understand why you asked me, because I'm just a man with a camera, but I would say yes anytime, because I love you, and we've had a long friendship, and we have lots of fun convos, and you know what, if people
that's why I asked
this podcast and they like it, that's awesome, and I think that's pretty cool. I've like I said, I've never been asked to hang out with. Hey, if I bring my DVD for the roll with it to the next shoot, will you sign it for me?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Should we just end it on that? Yeah, I will definitely. I will definitely sign your DVD, Dustin.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'll see you. Well, how do you sign this one off? Sign this podcast off. I have
no business signing anybody off. I thank you for listening to me and Greg, and please tune in next time. And even if I'm not on it, I think you'll find Greg much more entertaining than me. And perhaps if you keep listening, I will make a return to talk about anything else that Greg tells me to.
There it is.
Is that even a sign? That's not a sign off.
That is.
Do a real one.
That is.
Oh, it's terrible. That's why I'm behind the camera.
No, that's it. That's it. That's our sign off. That's it, dude.